Today we're going to discuss the application Git, Git. Git's a software development change tracking application. This is both a lecture and a demonstration. We'll exercise the step-by-step introductory practice guide found in the Using Git for Version Control section of Chapter 3. We see a familiar lab setup here. Um, we've got Firefly, which is standing in for your PC in this demonstration. We upgraded from Botfly, which is connected to the internal lab network, but not used at this time. Um, Firefly is our jump server. It's providing internet connection sharing to this internal secure network through this Ethernet 5 connection to this switch, and from the switch then to the Raspberry Pi. So Git was designed for Linux kernel development by the fellow who designed Linux himself. Uh, Linus Torvalds created Git. It's Git is a distributed version control system, a DVCS. The Git is focused on controlling and managing programming source code projects called repositories. And a repository is cloned locally on your local machine. A Git account is not required to conduct the assignments for credit. And the assignment is going to consist of reporting on your execution of the Derek Molloy test.git introduction exercise. Um, we'll move right on into a desktop, a remote desktop session with Firefly. You're familiar with this setup. We've got the internet connection through a private network on Ethernet 3, and we're sharing that internet connection out through Ethernet 5, also on a private network, which we have set to private using the Git net connection profile and set net connection profile commands. Uh, so we'll go ahead and open a PuTTY session to the Raspberry Pi. And we'll install uh, the application. We've got the application installed. So the first thing we're going to do is clone test um, the test environment that is provided with the textbook. So it's we're already in the root, so we don't need to change to root. Let's get clone https colon. Okay, so we've initialized our test environment. So let's change directory into our test environment and have a look. So okay, in our test environment, let's see what we've got. All right, so we've got a README. We could read that. And there we have. Let's move into the hidden.get network. And there we'll do an ls. And let's look in the configuration file for a particular configuration line. Pipe that through grep and looking for something containing URL. There it is. That line is in there. If we simply looked in more, in config file, we see that there's several lines in the config file. So we see the URL was what we just fetched, but if we do this same command, this time we grep fetch, we get the fetch line. The fetch line is what we're going to want to see returned. Okay, now then, let's get the status. So let's get up out of that directory. So now we're back up in the test directory. We're going to create a file using pat. So we're going to echo some text, just some text. Okay, we're going to take that string and we're going to direct that thing into a new file, .txt. Bam, just created it. Get status. Oops. New file. And there it is. So, so there is our untracked file. But we could create a get ignore file to ignore that. So we could, let's create a fake, let's create a file to ignore our object files. Okay, so create a new file, echo, our string is going to be any object file. And we're going to pipe that, or redirect that rather, whoops, into dot get ignore. There. Now, if we look in git ignore, we'll see that we've created it. Now, let's touch that object. Okay, now that we've touched it, let's get status. Oh, I spelled it wrong. Now we've got git ignore and new file. Now we've got two untracked file, but there's no mention of test object O. Test object.o is being ignored. Note that the hidden file gitignore is now itself part of the repository. Now we can add files to the staging area. We're going to add everything but the ignored files. The new node files are going to be ignored. Okay. Now then, let's get the status again. Now we have these new files in our staging area. So now we have changes that are ready to be committed. And to commit those, we use, well, before we commit them, let's identify ourselves in the configuration file so that we know who is making these changes. So let's just git config. Now that we've more, but we can, now that we've added those, we can check them by looking at there. Now we commit it. And we have two files changed. Now to perform the next step, we have to, which is to push out our change out to the remote repository. We would have to have a remote repository, and we have not set one up for the purpose of this exercise. We do not need to set one up. However, if you would like to set one up, I would recommend that you go ahead and do that. Branching enables the developer to maintain multiple versions of the project. It's useful for developing new features. So we're going to create a branch. We're going to develop in that branch. We're going to merge that branch back with our original project, and then we're going to delete that branch. So back in our terminal session, all right, that looks like it's alive. Um, let's create a branch called My Branch. Then let's check out the new branch that we've created. Okay, so now we're in My Branch. So let's create a file. Touch creates an empty file. Look, there it is. Created the file. Now then, what's the status? All right, we have test My Branch, yet to be committed. So let's add it to the staging area. Okay, so we have a change now to be committed. And let's commit it. All right, got our change. Nothing to commit. And there's all our stuff. Now then, let's note that we have test My Branch. Let's go back and check out the master. Back to the original. Okay, my branch is ahead of my master. Whoa, where did test my branch .text go? Well, it's in that branch, but it's not in the master. Now then, uh, let's go back. So, and check out My Branch again. Okay, so we're back in My Branch. Um, there's test my branch.text. So now we're going to merge. Now that we've seen that um, we actually can create a branch with a difference in it that's not reflected, let's merge. So let's get the master. Okay, so we've got master, and let's see, get merge My Branch. Did it again. Okay, got one file changed. Nothing to commit. And now remember, we're in master, and there's my branch. Now, let's get rid of my branch. So we're going to get branch, delete my branch. And yet we still have my branch.txt in our master. And that concludes our lecture and demonstration on the application Git. Thank you.